I am committed to making Norfolk Southern safety culture the best in the industry.
Well, you're not having a good month. You're not having a good month. It seems like every week there's another accident that Norfolk Southern is a part of.
On Thursday, March 9th, 2023, Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw faced some of our elected leaders as he testified in front of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. His testimony came just hours after another Norfolk Southern derailment, this one in Calhoun County, Alabama. A Norfolk Southern representative said there was no risk to the public after that one, and the NTSB said it was investigating. They now have multiple investigations open that involve Norfolk Southern. Of course, the most widely publicized one of those is the derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, so I thought now would be a good time to look at some of what the NTSB has found so far.
Roller bearings fail, but it's absolutely critical for problems to be identified and addressed early so these aren't run until failure.
Strong words from NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy during a February 23, 2023 press conference regarding the Norfolk Southern derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Here are some of the critical details surrounding what happened moments before the train came off the tracks.
Now, the train passed 3 wayside defect detectors, which identify overheated bearings and provide an audible warning to train crews.
According to the NTSB, the train crew did get one of those warnings after a hot box or hot bearing detector exceeded Norfolk Southern's critical threshold of 200 degrees above ambient temperature. The ambient temperature at the time of the incident was 10 degrees, according to the NTSB.
Upon passing the 3rd detector with a temperature of 253 degrees above ambient, that's critical, 253 degrees above ambient, a critical audible alarm message sounded, instructing the crew to slow and stop the train to inspect the hot axle.
But what exactly does an audible alarm message like that sound like? Well, I've never heard one on Norfolk Southern, but here's what something like this sounds like on CSX. And by the way, this was not an emergency situation. From what I could gather, the railroad was doing some kind of maintenance on this defect detector in Tucker, Georgia.
Milepost 564.0. Hotbox west side axle 32. Hotbox west side axle 32. Hotbox detector malfunction. Total axle 100. End of transmission.
So that broadcast over the radio tells the train crew what axle has the issue and what side of the train it's on. Then they can get the train stopped and investigate. If the car with the issue isn't able to continue the journey, it'll have to be taken out of the train and set out somewhere. Now, here's what this defect detector sounds like when everything is going according to plan. This is the hot box or hot bearing detector. We've heard these mentioned a lot since the derailment in East Palestine. The scanner head here uses infrared sensors, and those metal plates on either side of this detector protect it from equipment that might be dragging. And finally, here's the broadcast of what the detector found. Fortunately, nothing.
CSX equipment defect detector. Milepost 564.0. No defects. No defects. Total axle 136. End of transmission.
Okay, so there are a couple of other pieces of technology at this defect detector installation that are worth mentioning. The flaps between and on the sides of the rails are spring-loaded and will trigger a warning if dragging equipment on the train hits them. There are also transducers here that count the axles. Alright, so that's what CSX defect detectors look and sound like where I live, but what about on Norfolk Southern? Well, the setup is very similar to what we saw on CSX. DNS defect detectors have a slightly different voice and don't give out as much information. And keep in mind, this may differ based on where you live. This one is in Norcross, Georgia.
Norfolk Southern, milepost
619.0, no defects.
That was a pretty short train. The next one is just light engines.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 619.0, no defects.
In a March 6, 2023 press release, Norfolk Southern revealed a new 6-point safety plan. According to that plan, the company anticipates adding approximately 200 hot bearing detectors to its network. Norfolk Southern says right now, the distance between hot bearing detectors on the company's core network averages 13.9 miles. We've heard one of the components here referred to as a hotbox detector, but the term hotbox may be a little bit antiquated for the 21st century. So-called hotboxes referred to overheated journal boxes used on older rolling stock with plain bearings. Carmen had to regularly inspect journal boxes to make sure they were properly packed with oil-soaked cotton or rags, which were commonly called waste. If these weren't maintained and lubricated properly, they could catch a car on fire. Starting in the 1960s, new freight cars were required to have trucks with roller bearings. Unlike ball bearings, which you may be familiar with, roller bearings use cylindrical rollers in a sealed unit. Roller bearings are much safer and less maintenance intensive than the older plain bearings. Okay, here's NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy again talking about the derailment in East Palestine.
We know for a fact that this derailment occurred at car number 23. Car number 23 was a hopper car which carried plastic pellets. It was the combination of the hot axle and the plastic pellets which started the initial fire.
So what could cause all that heat? Well, improper or poor lubrication can cause roller bearings to fail, and fatigue, contamination, or corrosion could also lead to problems. Something else that's worth mentioning is that there are no disc brakes on freight cars. The brake shoe comes in direct contact with the steel wheel. A lot of heat could also be generated if a car's brakes were left on or sticking. Of course, those are just examples. The NTSB's investigation into what happened in East Palestine is still ongoing.
NTSB investigators at this time have not identified any operational issues with the wayside defect detectors, but we're still looking at them. There's also no evidence of track defects.
The train crew also did what they were supposed to do, according to the NTSB. On March 2, 2023, the NTSB announced it was looking at aluminum protective housing covers used on 3 of the tank cars that were carrying vinyl chloride in East Palestine. The NTSB said it was, quote, concerned that aluminum protective housing covers on some tank cars melted or were consumed when pressure relief devices vented burning gas while functioning as designed to relieve tank pressure. Preliminary examination suggests that melted aluminum may have dripped into some PRDs, possibly degrading their performance. The pressure inside a tank car rises when it's exposed to fire. Pressure relief devices, or PRDs, are designed to release small quantities of the car's contents, then close when normal conditions are restored. This is supposed to relieve the pressure inside the car. Okay, so ultimately, a full NTSB investigation could take 12 to 24 months.
We are the gold standard when it comes to investigations globally. And we are methodical in our approach. But if we see a safety issue that we need addressed immediately, something systemic, we will not hesitate to issue an urgent safety recommendation.
On March 7, 2023, the NTSB announced it would open a special investigation into Norfolk Southern's safety practices and culture. This follows what the NTSB called 5 significant accidents involving Norfolk Southern since December 2021. One of those accidents was a derailment near Springfield, Ohio on March 4, 2023. Following that incident, Norfolk Southern announced on March 9th that it had identified a specific model and series of cars had loose wheels which they said could cause a derailment. The company said it issued orders to remove the cars from service until the wheel sets could be replaced. NS said it notified the NTSB and FRA about this. The Association of American Railroads also issued an advisory to halt the use of the cars which, from what I've been able to gather, haul steel coils. Another accident mentioned by the NTSB, which will be part of its special investigation, involved the death of a Norfolk Southern conductor who was hit by a dump truck in Cleveland, Ohio on March 7, 2023. After that tragedy, NS CEO Alan Shaw issued this statement that said, in part, "Moving forward, we are going to rebuild our safety culture from the ground up. we are going to invest more in safety. This is not who we are, it is not acceptable, and it will not continue. There's no doubt, this is a developing situation, and there's a lot more to talk about than what I've just mentioned in this video. The issues that have come up since the derailment in East Palestine will have repercussions across the U.S. I'll do my best to keep you all informed and explain things to the best of my ability. As always, thanks for watching.